that what was lost for us in the transition was our history, our tradition, and our heritage. In some kind of way, I try really pounding on that high school male and that senior men in the community that our blessings are a result of somebody giving. And so your contribution back to where you are is in honor of those who made it possible for you to have. We're not self-made. So the hope is that we can make them relate that the plight of our people has always been confrontational and oppositional, but we've able to move from one era to another with determination, and that it is imperative and incumbent on this generation to apprehend and comprehend that you must provide for your people, that it's not going to be sufficient to allow someone else to assess our needs and try to dictate what it is that we should and should not do. That must be done by us. And so I think that we are almost in an individualistic mode that is almost, I got mine, I've accomplished, I'm proud of my sons, I'm proud of my, but I need to view every boy as my son. I think that that's what my fathers did, that they saw me as their responsibility. And I think of trying to get those boys to understand that the struggle is not over. It may have a different kind of face and element to it, but the struggle is still there.
And so from here, you've been pastoring here for...
And what's amazing to me is the changing of concepts, changing of principles, not the activities and states. I think that the understanding and comprehension of the principles and concepts that, that would govern us is what bring our actions. So I think that that's an issue, and I've seen generations have a different perspective. And one of the proclamations that I'm asking, and as we focus on men, is we must return men to our concept of who God is. We are a spiritual people. There were some things we just did not do. Some things that were not an option for us. And now I look at the suicide rate and African Americans committing suicide.
That used to be never heard.
It was never. And so the principles that our fathers had not only sustained us, but they fortified us for opposition and trouble and turmoil, and their belief system that they had, that they could get through any opposition. And now we've got a generation that's weak in that area. Our men just didn't do certain things. At least we reverenced the first day of the week on Sunday. We didn't go to the fishing bank in the woods, and we didn't do all that. And so I think now that transition and from our pursuits to prosperity has caused us to emulate something that was never a part of us. And I think that we must reclaim those principles in order for our sons to understand who we are. We must give them the principles that were viable and effective for sustaining us and propelling us through whatever adversity we had. And I see us kind of weakening at the foundation, the core, because those practices are not there. I also believe that some of the laws and ordinances that were implemented in the transition, even though they were supposed to have been good for the institution, they victimized us because we were no longer able to implement the practice and principles that were relative to who we are. We raise children different. We don't raise children like other races. There are some principles and concepts because of our plight. I kind of say to my church family, we didn't have that concept of go to your room. There was no form of discipline.
If they
And
couldn't see
Mama
what
said
you
go
were
to your
doing right
room.
there.
Yeah, Mama said go to your room. That means 10 of us went to the same. We went to the same room. So the access that our educators had to us, because the coach and the principal and the teachers could prepare me for life. Education is supposed to be preparation for life. And I think we've lost the fact that we're now preparing our children for testing and not for life. And so the elements is that we need affection and discipline and chastisement and correction and counsel and etc. And all of those in a holistic educational perspective is supposed to come from the same place. So my father could discipline me, and then 3 hours later, he could carry me to get some ice cream. I know that he didn't hate me. My mother could discipline me, and we have tea cakes next day or so. And so, and then I could go to school, and the educator could implement the same practice and principles in my life that my mom and dad did. Because my problem wasn't with mom and dad. I mean, I'm old school.
Yeah.
Mama said, shut up, shut up. And I had this thing that dad said, he could talk with his eyes, I mean, he could look and, to get in order. But the problem that my parents had with me was when I was out of their presence. This is when I was influenced by my classmates and my peers to be involved in deviant activity. And so, as children, we are curious, and we try to see how far we can get over, what we can get away with. Our children are different than we are. We just had different managers, with a different mindset. In some kind of way, we must claim that, reclaim it, because now there's one individual who's responsible for intellect, the teacher. She's not responsible for discipline, counsel, and chastisement. Just make sure he understands the information. There's another one who's responsible for discipline. If he does something in the classroom, then they send him down the hall. And 3 days and all that. Somebody who's responsible for counsel. They're coming from different, all those elements coming from different individuals. So I think you and I would know that if the only time I saw you, you wanted to discipline me, I'm not going to like, it's going to be some rebellion there. But if there's some affection and counsel and probably mild chastisement along with the severe discipline, I can understand that you care about me and looking for my welfare in the future rather than so. And I think those are things that we have lost, and those things have victimized us, and where the trust factor has been reduced and diminished.